I mean, that's a big reason why I wrote this book, just knowing that you're not alone, because that's what happens is people suffer in silence.
Yeah.
They think they're the only one. They are just like, okay, well, I guess this is just what I'm doomed to do. And it affects every single part of their life. And just knowing that they're not alone might be something, or being able to reach out to leaders that see that there's stuff that may not be quite right, that they're doing the best they can as a leader, that they're trying to do what they need to do, but maybe it's not working quite right. It's like I said, yeah, there were some bad actors in my story, but for the most part, I really think these are good people who meant well. And I think that's the truth for most leaders as well. Most of them are good people and they mean well, but they don't necessarily understand the implications of their actions.
Absolutely. And for those others that aren't those that necessarily mean well, could we talk a little bit about that? Because you mentioned that a little in the book. It feels the kind of the dark triad traits. How do you identify that? How do you even think about that subset of people in leadership positions? And what do you do when you realize you might be working for one?
Well, here's the bad news about that. So dark triad are psychopaths, sociopaths, Machiavellians, and narcissists. They're actually talking about making it a dark tetrad and adding sadism to that as well.
I don't think we should make that shape any bigger,
Well, either, honestly, I mean, it's horrible. But one thing that does distinguish every single one of these people in there is they have no empathy or very diminished empathy. So that is part of what this is. And the weird thing is it's not a disorder. I mean, you can have narcissistic disorder, but narcissism as a thing is a behavior description. I mean, this is the behavior. So it's not like it's something we're going to treat and help with. And in all reality, these people don't want help or to be treated anyway. This is what they are, and they don't have that empathy. That's just, the studies show it has to do with brain chemistry. Some of it has to do with growing up. Some of it has to do with environment. Some of it has to do with experience, all the way around. That's just how it is. Now, according to research, they figure 2 to 5% of the population fall into this category. So they're going to be there. And there's even some idea that number may be growing. It could be up to 7% now for a whole bunch of reasons, which is like a whole nother show all by itself. But the point is that you're not going to escape them completely. They're there. And because it's a behavior thing, all of us have a certain amount of narcissism in our behavior. It all exists on the spectrum. Some of us do have a little bit of manipulative in us, which is the Machiavellian side of things. So this could be happening on a behavioral level, as opposed, a small n narcissist instead of a big N narcissist, someone that behaves that way instead of someone who is one. Unfortunately, because we're talking leadership positions, and that can be, in government, that can be medically, like surgeons or top level people, that can be in the C-suite, anybody that takes those top levels, they tend to think the percentage of people that are dark triad in those levels is higher, like more like 20 to 25%, potentially.
I would imagine that the first time a lot of people encounter that kind of personality is in the workplace, just given the nature of and that makes it even more difficult to know how to respond in any situation. But I think one of the takeaways is when somebody is in that triad or tetrad and has a leadership position, they have many limitations in their ability to relate to you as a human being and not a pawn, right? Yeah. They don't have a vested interest in your well-being because they literally lack the brain chemistry in order to do so. And they also might have very good qualities as well. They might be great storytellers, right? And this is somebody you've known for years, perhaps, but then you realize you can look back on it later on with more context. Oh, that's what this was. That makes sense. Why that was so strange. And it brings up a lot of questions. Do I want to continue here? That feels like a level of randomness to subject yourself to and potential harm that can be extremely damaging. And as somebody who's been through that, it's don't recommend once you've identified. Yeah, there's a lot to want to change, a place, a culture, maybe think you can skirt around evoking certain reactions for certain reasons. But there's also times when you just need to protect yourself and jump into the unknown instead of staying in kind of that petri dish of cluster B personality, not to pathologize,
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think for those of us with empathy too, because we do what's called perspective taking. We try to think about what it is in the other person's shoes, but it's always through our own eyes. So for us to look at someone like that, we don't always get it right away because it's really foreign. For me, I'll admit that's part of why I started looking at this, because I'm like, I am so confused. Just the utter confusion all the time at this behavior. I never saw it coming because it's just not part of who I am. So it shocked me every single time, and still does, because I'm just, that's just not how I'm wired.